Finally.
Hey, what are you so excited about?
I finally got my printer settings right where I wanted them.
What's that supposed to mean?
It means that everything I print moving forward will be perfect, crisp, and clean. It won't be crap like the stuff I've been printing before now.
Are you saying that I'm not perfect?
No, I would never say that about you.
Yeah, well, can your perfect new models do this?
Yeah, they can do that. And when they do, I can actually see their fingernails, unlike on those smooth sausage fingers you've got.
Oh!
This week's video is all about how to get the perfect print. And it's easier than you think. So I've seen a lot of videos lately that talk about how 3D printing isn't a hobby, because it's something that's so easy to do. And when I first started, I would have totally disagreed with them. And to a certain point, I still do disagree. Certain printers make printing a lot easier than others. Okay, I've talked about them in the past about resin versus FDM. FDM is one of those things that can be way harder just because there is so much more that goes into making your prints perfect, making them, crisp, clear, the way that you want them to be. But if you're just looking to print, normal things with a standard quality, a lot of those now are plug and play. You just get the files, put them in your slicer, print them out. Resin printers have always been that way. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we're going to talk about today is fine-tuning your printer. Now, if you go to Thingiverse or any of those other websites, you're going to find a lot of different tools that you can use to find out if your print quality is as sharp as it can be. And I think most of them are confusing. Most of them are... There's so many different little things that you have to look at. And can you tell? And once you've cured them and you've got them all and you're looking at them, did you cure them all the same? Did you do everything exactly the same? I feel like they're very hard to tell if you've got your settings right where you want them to be. And then, about a year ago, I came across the Cones of Calibration. And what the Cones of Calibration are is it's a little tool that you print. Okay, does it have you adjust anything and everything? No. Basically, all it does is tell you if you are curing something for too long. Okay, every time that your printer does a layer, it cures it. It puts light on it. And you determine how long it does that for. If you're doing too much light, it's light. It bleeds onto the things around it. Your stuff isn't going to be as clear as it needs to be. If you do too little light, then it won't print properly and it'll fall apart. So to get the perfect, crisp, clear prints that you want, you need to make sure that your print gets the perfect light. So you need to make sure it's not getting too much and over curing, or too little and just not making the parts that you want. And that's where the Cones of Calibration comes in, and it is the easiest tool that I have found for calibrating your printer. So how does this work? How do you do this? How do you calibrate your printer? Simple. Start to finish, this is what you do. Go to Google. You type in Cones of Calibration. It should pop up with Table Flip Foundry. Go to Table Flip Foundry, and right there on their main page, you will see the Cone of Calibration. Click on it. Download it. Once you've downloaded it, you got to unzip it because it's a zip file. Open it up. Inside of it, there's going to be two files. There's going to be just the Cones of Calibration, and there's also going to be a Cones of Calibration with a raft. If you want to print it with a raft, you can. I have always done it just the Cone of Calibration. Take that file, put it into your slicer, import it into whatever slicer you're using, and print. Don't change any settings on your printer. Print. You need a baseline. So the first print's going to come out and it's going to tell you where your print is at. So once you got it all cured and everything and you're looking at it, there are two sides to this cone, to this calibration tool. One that says failure and one that says success. Now, on the success side, guess what? You want the cones to all be a success. The cones come up to a point and then they go up to the other side. There's two cones, one coming up, one coming down, and you want them to meet in the middle, and you want them to all be there, all connected. Okay, so on the success side, you want successes. On the failure side, guess what you want? You got it, failures. Okay, so you want those cones to not be connected. You want them to have failed on that side. And I know generally you don't want your prints to fail, but with this tool, you do. You want them to fail. So if some of your successes failed, something needs to be changed. If some of your failures succeeded, something needs to change. So what you do is you go into your slicer. I'm going to be using Chitubox for this. Once you're inside of your slicer, you need to go to your settings. And inside of settings, you are going to see the option for print. So click on print. And once you get in here, you have the general settings. Now, there are a lot of these. And for what I'm going to tell you today, there's only one that I want you to mess with. And that's going to be your exposure time. The exposure time is how long your print exposes each layer of the print. So in here in the print settings, there's a couple things you should know. The bottom exposure time, that is how long the bottom layers of your print are going to expose. Usually this is going to be high, 30, 40, 50 seconds. And what this does is this is what's securing your build to your build plate. So it's always going to be longer. For what we're doing today, you don't need to mess with that. If your builds are sticking to your build plate, just leave it alone. Okay, the exposure time, that's how long each layer is exposed to light. If you expose too much, then there's too much light. There's bleeding of light into things. And so your prints come out not looking as clear as they can. If there's not a long enough exposure time, stuff fails. And that's where the cone of calibration comes in. The successes, you want them to succeed. The failures, you want them to fail, because you want to find that magic spot right in the middle.
Magic!
Where you have the perfect amount of time. Not too much for bleeding, not too little for your print to fall apart. And that's what the Cones of Calibration does. So, print your first one. Take a look at it. If you have a bunch of successes, that means you're curing long enough. You need to go to the failure side. And if you have failures, if they all failed, then you're perfect. That's where you want it to be. If one or two cones are successes on the failure side, that means that you can bring down your time a little bit. So right now, looking at mine, my exposure time is 2.8 seconds. Only one of my failures was a success. Only one of the cones on my failure side succeeded. So I don't want to lower it a ton. I'm only doing 2.8 seconds a layer. So I'll lower it by half a second, and we'll drop it down to 2.3. And then I'll print it again and see where I'm at. And if it comes out and all the successes are good and there's all the failures have failed, then I know I've reached my perfect spot. If all my failures have failed and now one of my successes has failed, then I'll know that I did a little too much and I'll need to pull it back a little bit, maybe a fourth of a second, and try again. Now, do you need to do that? It's a fourth of a second. Is it that much of a difference? With resin printing, it's not a huge difference. Is it enough to see? Sometimes it is. Okay, this will allow you to get there really close. And as long as you're close enough, your prints are going to turn, they're going to look amazing. They're going to look great. You're going to be able to see those fingernails. You're going to see those eyes. Okay, so you'll be fine. If you want it to be perfect though, print them. Keep printing, keep adjusting until you get those perfect prints, and you'll know that you're right where you're supposed to be. And that's it. It is literally the easiest tool that there is for calibrating your printer. So give it a shot. Print it out. See where your printer's at. Mine, first print, never changed a single thing. I had one failure that succeeded. And all my successes were good. So I only have to change mine up a little bit. And that was good enough for me. You know, do I need to keep changing it? No. I mean, I'm close enough that I'll try to get the perfect print. But my prints were turning out great the way that they were. And so if it's too much of a hassle for you, print it out once or twice, see where you're at. And if you're okay, fine, keep going. I have looked at a couple different calibration tools, and this one's my favorite. It is the easiest. It is clear as day to see what you need to change. If there are tools out there that you think are better than this, I would love to know which ones they are and why you think they're better. But for me, this has been the easiest tool. And for those of you who give it a shot, let me know how many tries it took before you got to the perfect spot, and if you were able to tell a difference once you got there. That's what I want to know. I want to make your tabletop gaming experience a little better by making your models a little clearer. So for anyone looking to print with resin and looking to calibrate, this is where I would start. This is a good helping tool, and it's the easiest one that there is. So give it a shot. And if it helped, come on back to the channel. Come see what else we got that can help you. Please like, subscribe, follow us. We're just getting bigger. We're just going to keep going. And we're just going to have more fun. So thank you for joining us during this Christmas season. And as always, don't spend so much time creating your world that you forget to spend a little time in it. Until next time.